We left London early on an overcast Saturday morning to head out to the English countryside to visit John Dickson, the former owner of NBC Environment and one of the largest privately held pest control companies in the United Kingdom. Now, my producer, Dylan, decided this was a great opportunity to attempt to drive on the wrong side of the road. But we made it out there in one piece. We got to visit John's 16th century manor estate, and for the first time in my life, I was able to get up close and personal with a falcon.
We'd been looking for ages before we found this place, and we must have viewed 20 houses.
Yeah.
The problem was our houses were either knackered and needed a lot of work doing, or they didn't have the land, and this just ticked so many boxes for us. So these are the gable ends, which are Elizabethan. This part here, see the difference? That's like 500 years old.
And you said there was something on here dating all the way back to 13th century.
Yeah.
Wow.
So this is nice.
This is the moat.
But this was built at the same time as the outside of the house was built, so about 1900.
What's this look like 3 months from now when everything's blooming?
Beautiful.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah. We came in the summer to look at it. Yeah, we're really excited about it. And you'll see the moat doesn't look so nice now, but because it's just mud, but it will look lovely when it's all dug out. I fell over I was digging shit out of this yesterday.
This is the hazards of country living, I guess. How do your girls like it out here?
They love it. The one's very, obviously got everything for the horses, and the other one's into running, biking, swimming, does triathlons and stuff.
Now those sound like less expensive hobbies than horses. Well, NBC turned out to be a fantastic story for you and the family.
30 years of hard work, though.
For sure.
And it was a lot of hard work. I wanted to be successful as much as anything else. And the nice thing with business is your definition of success is constantly moving. When you do one big deal or you achieve one thing, you then...
That goalpost moves.
That goalpost moves, drives my wife mad because I'm never satisfied. And that's the entrepreneurial sort of element of the business that I enjoy. My 17-year-old daughter rides. That's her horse. Look at the size of it.
Wow. How many horses do you have here? 3? 2?
4.
4. Okay. Hi, Stitch.
Horses are hard work. They're normally broken.
What do you mean?
Well, they're normally, they always seem to be getting injured. So they don't need one horse. Yes. They need 2, and then you end up with, then often they get 2 broken, and it's so frustrating for them. I prefer the cars.
Yeah.
You don't use them. They go in the garage.
Yeah.
And put a dust sheet over them, and they're fine. They don't kick either, or bite.
Do they have to take these horses out every day and run them around? Yeah.
A huge amount of work to look after those horses, which is why it's the commitment for them.
Yeah.
I've got a lot of respect for my wife and my children, the passion that they have for it and the work they put in. But like in everything, you have to have both those things to succeed at anything. I started falconry when I was 13, just after reading a book called Kes, which is also a movie.
So you told your parents, you were like, I want to get a falcon?
How did that happen? I read this book and I was really interested in it. We'd go to the zoo and I was like fascinated by these falcons. And then by chance they met someone who rescued these birds, and he used to just give me birds. And at the time the birds were very expensive. I was very young. And so he was really cool. He really, got me into the falconry. Family business was always in furniture. set up my own furniture business when I was about 19, which predictably didn't work for a young lad.
Every furniture business. Yes.
Also, a young lad in his early 20s isn't as motivated and as focused on his business as he should be. And I wrote to an environmental consultant for a job who said, "Oh, I noticed on your CV you've practiced falconry. You know, they use them to scare away birds. And there's a site opening a mile down the road from you, a waste site that might need it." And it was a bit of a eureka moment. So I put my business and sales skills into practice and touted for business and ended up winning 2 contracts. And that's how it started.
So you had a love for the birds, and then you're like, okay, now I can make some money with these guys.
No one ever thought it was serious. And that was so frustrating. I've always been focused on business, at sales. So I think why initially the business worked, because if it didn't gain momentum that quickly, it would have been challenging. It gained momentum very quickly. And I think that was because unusually I was a businessman first and a falconer second, whereas in this sort of environment, it was generally the person was a falconer first and a businessman second. There was opportunity. And so we took it and the business grew very quickly.
This is called Firecracker.
Yeah. So is this a baby one or?
No, what people don't realise is they're fully grown.
Okay.
They just like to sit down and just chill for a bit.
Yep.
Before they fly. Generally, these are working birds, not sporting birds, so these are hunting things I don't want to eat.
Yeah.
And they don't actually catch a lot of them, but
they're scaring them off.
Yeah, but the threat's real. So if something wasn't going to fly away, they'll probably catch it. And that's why there's no habituation. You know, a lot of these bird scaring devices don't work after a while. That should never really happen with falconry, because if it stops working and the thing stops flying away, it becomes dinner.
Yep.
So, and that's the skill of the falconer, sort of teaching them to work positively. Some of them almost end up knowing their job, because you reward them when they chase things away, so they almost end up knowing their job is just to chase.
How do you reward them?
Well, they get food from you.
Gotcha.
So, and it's quite interesting. I've watched birds, and they almost make it create their own territory. So they will look at an area will become their territory, and if anything comes into it, they'll chase it away. And that's great, because you can keep an area clear of birds for, indefinitely. What's good about NBC and what's different is that the level of expertise. We fly a lot of falcons as opposed to hawks. Most bird control companies will solely use hawks because they're much easier to handle. And I know it's hard for people to understand the difference between a hawk and a falcon, but it's like an F1 car and a hot hatch. You know, a falcon will clear an area, well, it'll clear a whole airfield. I can let a bird like that go on a landfill site where there's 3,000 seagulls scavenging, and there'll be no seagulls. Every one of those 3,000 will fly off, and it will command the area and clear the area. I can clear a whole airfield, which might be a mile round with one falcon. Whereas if you fly a hawk, it'll fly up to the nearest building. And because these are bird hunters, they scare the birds, whereas the hawk hunts mainly mammals and will take birds for surprise, so it doesn't clear such a large area.
How many falconers do you guys have at NBC now?
I think at NBC there must have about 60 falconers. Most of the technicians, pest control technicians, are also skilled in falconry.
Do you hire somebody fresh and train them that's never even seen a falcon?
Yeah. Just this week they had 3 go through training. It's got to be a passion. It's got to be an interest, because they're going to be looking after it 24/7. So.
But do they take their birds home?
They take their birds home. Yeah. So they have to look after them at home, and so they have to have that real interest. But you'll enjoy watching these fly, and I'm going to especially enjoy watching your cameramen trying to keep up with it.
Yeah, I will as well. You're in your mid-20s at the time. I mean, how did you get the capital to grow that business? I mean,
well, I didn't have any capital. My family didn't have any money. I didn't have any money. You know, luckily I didn't have a lot of responsibilities at that time, so I could take the risk. But I was supported with the Prince's Trust, very luckily. And then later on, we did various awards, and I was lucky enough to meet the Prince of Wales and receive a Young Entrepreneur of the Year award back in 1994 or 5.
When you were young?
When I was young.
So how did you, you know, when you sold NBC to Rollins, and it was a pest control company with a national coverage here in the UK, but how did you go from those first 2 contracts? I mean, what was the progression of adding on pest control services? And I guess what would the early stages of the business look like, really?
That's really interesting how we went from bird control to pest control. And even, again, throughout the period, and even now, people will say, oh, NBC, you do pest control. You know, it's ended up, it's probably 50-50 of the business now is equal between pest control and falconry related services. We're still the largest employer of falcons, probably in Europe. I say we, NBC. The exit of NBC, it almost happened a bit by chance. We'd had some good years and the business was on a good trajectory. I recognised that the marketplace was potentially changing. Not so much the marketplace, but more the economy, if you like. You know, you could see that the growth from COVID was
artificial.
It was artificial. And that at some point that was going to change. And my finance director said to me one day, he was talking about his own exit and how long he was going to stay. And he said, well, you're probably going to be exiting soon, aren't you? And I thought, well, I haven't really.
Why do you ask?
It was a bit like that. And it got me thinking, and I started to review around what was around me rather than focusing on driving the business. I just spent a bit of time looking a bit wider. And actually, I came across your Supernova blog, and it resonated a lot with me. There was a lot I could identify with, particularly in the UK. I could sense that the marketplace for a potential acquisition was strong. There was a lot of competition in the UK market. You know, how long that was going to go on, I suspected wasn't that long. The economic outlook, I thought, could be challenged. So I took a call with you one day and we had a conversation, and it sort of progressed from there, really.
Yeah.
NBC was always and is always about its people, and they were the ones who made the difference. The business, for it to continue its growth and development, was going to need better support. You know, I wasn't going to be there forever, but for the business and the people who made it what it was, they would be best placed with another business who could take it to the next level. And luckily in Rollins, I think we found a good fit. So all I'm going to do, okay, is I'm going to untie her. So she's going to be completely free. Go up here. There you go. Take the hood off, okay? Just take it off and hold your arm out, okay? You see that? There you go. Good. Here he comes. Lovely.
Spending that beautiful day with John and watching those falcons soar into the English sky is an experience I'll never forget. As the sun began to set and we made our way back into London, I was reminded how beautiful life really can be outside of work, and that the dream of the entrepreneur to start from nothing and realize all of this is alive and well.